Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Grand Cruz Astrology. My name is Clayton Cruz, and today I'm going to talk to you about the end of the year, 2020. This will span from about middle of November till the end of the year, and so it's about a 6 week reading, and I'll talk about some of the transits and things that we're dealing with for the collective, but mostly I want to talk about how this energy relates on an individual level. But before I get to that, I just want to say, I haven't made a video in a while. I've been really, really busy, and I've made the decision that I'm only going to make videos when I actually have the time to put into it. And so, when I have the time and when I have the attention to put on it and give you something of value, then I will put that together and I will do it. So the videos will be ready, and I will post them when they are ready. So that's sort of what's going on going forward. So thank you for joining me and continuing to watch. I really appreciate that. This is great. So, talking about the end of the year, talking about the last 6 weeks of the month. This is going to be, a general reading, and it's going to relate to the collective, yes. But I want to talk about these energies and how they relate more on an individual level, and how you can access them and connect with them and use them. Because I think that's where the value is. There are, plenty of people doing videos about what's going on with the collective and making predictions and things like that. But I just want to highlight what the energies are so that you can use them in your personal life. So what we have here, this is starting this video on November 15th, and right about now, we have Mars stationed direct in the sky. Now, for the last couple of months, Mars has been retrograde. During that time, it's not been a very optimal time to use Mars energy. Mars is the energy of outward push, of making things happen, of acting first and thinking later, and just being. It has a physicalness to it, an action oriented. It's an action oriented energy. It's Mars. The glyph for Mars is a circle with an arrow pointing out of it. It's masculine, right? It's a masculine energy, and it's the god of war, right? So Mars is it's dutiful, and its purpose, which is to make things happen, to get things done, right? Now, whether that the god of war is acting in a way that is just and is noble, or whether it's acting in tyranny, or outside its bounds, or whatever, that's depends on aspects, and it depends on every individual, of course, and how we use the energy. However, Mars, the last couple of months, using that energy has not been, it probably hasn't yielded the best results for most people. It's sort of using Mars energy while it's retrograde, trying to use Mars energy to go outward, trying to use Mars energy to push things to create outcomes in the world. It would probably take twice as much effort to create half the result, right? It's just diminishing returns. So that energy, I'm glad to say, for those who really like using that outward pushing energy, for people that are doers and want to make things happen, this energy is now starting to go direct. I will say that when a planet goes retrograde or it goes direct, its proximity to the Earth is typically closer, and so that the energy of that planet is in focus. It's very charged. So Mars energy right about now is very charged. But however, because the planet is still moving very slowly from a geocentric perspective, and because it's not moving very fast in the sky, we do need to wait a little while for the actual movement of Mars to catch up with our potential impulse to go ahead and start pushing and acting and making things happen. Because as soon as the planet starts to, goes either from direct to retrograde or retrograde direct, as soon as that shift takes place, I mean, I know for myself, and I believe that on a subtle level, we feel that, we sense that, we know it. Our antennas can pick up on that and read that. And so we very quickly in our minds, or in our thoughts, can very easily switch into, oh, I'm done waiting around. I'm done reflecting. Let's go out. Let's push. Let's make things happen. Let's do this, right? But I would just suggest that we need to wait just a little while longer. And so that's That can be difficult because the last couple of months we've been more reflective. If we've been using Mars energy to its optimal, all right, we've been more reflective. We've been really considering how we can take action to really create the life that we want in this new paradigm that we're all living in, right? We've been doing some assessment. We've been really doing a little inventory of what works from an action-oriented perspective and what doesn't work, right? That would have been a wise use of Mars energy during this last couple of months. And so there could be a part of us, for the next couple of weeks that's feeling like, oh, well, now is the time. Enough sitting around. Let's do this. Let's make things happen, right? That could be the shift that's taking place on an internal level for a lot of us. But I would just suggest the astrological advice is just give it a little bit longer or take baby steps, but don't try to leap out and make things happen all at once. Just give it a little more time. Okay, we're almost there. Now Mars, for most of the year, it's been kind of a booger. It's created a lot of friction. It's created a lot of conflict. It's created a lot of heated exchanges. Because Mars is the planet of, if in medical astrology, Mars is the planet of heat. It's a planet of acute disease. It's a planet of really, it's fire, right? It creates fire. It's warlike, right? It's frictious, okay? And so we've been feeling a lot of that energy this year. I mean, with the virus, with the fires, with the conflict, with everything. Mars energy has been around, right? Because it's been really creating angles with other planets. Back in March, it was conjunct Pluto, it was conjunct Jupiter, it was conjunct Saturn at one point. I mean, there was a lot of tension there. And then in the summer, it was making some more difficult angles with other planets, and then it went retrograde and it made some more difficult angles with those same planets, and so we've had this frictious energy around. It's been a very Mars has been a player this year, and it's created it's shook things up, okay. And so happy to say that in a lot of ways, Mars moving forward, at least for the next few weeks, at least until about mid-December or so, Mars, for this early part of the 6 weeks is going to be in a more favorable dynamic than it has been in the past. The angles are going to be more favorable. What do I mean? So it's not making any direct frictious angles until we get to the latter part of December. But for now, it's going to be gathering strength. It's going to be slowly starting to move forward. We may feel like we have a little more physical energy. We may feel a little more impulse to take charge, maybe want to step out there and take some chances to do some things. I mean, Mars is about action, all right? Mars is, there could just be the impulse that, hey, now's the time to actually start moving around a little bit and taking some chances and seeing what we can do, seeing what we can create. I know in the northern hemisphere it's getting cooler, but this could be a time where we want to be outside a little more. We want to use our bodies actively. All right. It could just be us wanting to get in shape. It can manifest in a lot of different ways, but this energy is starting to percolate. Now, when we get to early December, it is going to be trine to the new moon eclipse in Sagittarius. So, eclipses. This is big. Eclipses are always big. I always take time out for eclipses. So, we're going to have an eclipse in early December in the sign of Sagittarius. It's going to be square to Neptune. It's going to be a north node lunar eclipse, a new moon lunar eclipse. So, what does this mean? Well, it means that it could be a confusing time. When you're talking about a square to Neptune with an eclipse, you're talking about fog, you're talking about mist, you're talking about things that aren't being seen clearly necessarily. However, the Mars energy is going to be in full throttle, and it's going to be flowing. it's not going to be creating fictitious angles right away. For that first week or two of December, for that first 10 days, Mars energy is going to be in focus. It's going to be red hot, and it's going to be able to be used in a way that can really create outcome that is positive in our lives as individuals and as the collective. There's going to be a window there where Mars is really in good prime position. And I'm saying that because we haven't really had a lot of windows where Mars could be used in that way. But we're going to have that. Venus, which is the feminine counterpart to Mars, is going to be in the sign of Scorpio. And so Venus is not really going to be in its prime. Venus and Scorpio, that's a sign of its detriment. It doesn't really do very well in the sign of Scorpio. It's a Mars-ruled sign. So again, that's another testament to Mars sort of having the upper hand here once we start December and really being in full throttle and full focus. Venus is going to be a little bit more subdued. Its expression is going to be a little bit less effective. Now, what is Venusian energy? Venusian energy is more about finding balance and creating balance in one-to-one scenarios. I think there could be, with this Mars energy, a focus on self and individual needs and wants and desires, and less about trying to find balance with others. Now, for the early part of December, I don't see that being a terrible problem. It's not really going to be a great time to find balance within relationships necessarily, or make that your focus. But it is going to be a good time to take action and do what you need to do as an individual to get ahead and make things happen. With Mars there in Aries, Mars loves the sign of Aries. It's going to be in its prime, in its glory. It's going to be, at that time it will have started to move a lot faster. And so it's going to be a tailwind for taking action on an individual level, okay? For personal, you could say for personal gain, or just doing things that you need to do as an individual, right, to get ahead. All right, that energy is going to be there. Now, when it hits the eclipse, it's going to be, again, there will be that confusion energy around in the collective, because you're going to have a square from Neptune, which, a square from Neptune in the sign of Pisces, right? So that's sort of more of a collective energy, right? That's sort of Neptune and Pisces is about, like, we're all one and we're all connected and we're all trying to do what's best for everybody here. Nobody gets left out because we're all one. That's that kind of energy of Neptune in Pisces, right? Square to the new moon in Sagittarius, which is an eclipse, which kind of denotes some kind of, eclipses are about power outage or release, right? We're talking about a south node eclipse, which is what this is. I'm sorry, I might have said a north node eclipse earlier. I meant a south node eclipse. This is a south node eclipse in the sign of Sagittarius. So this could denote some kind of release on a personal level. It's all going to depend on where Sagittarius is in our chart and what it's aspecting. But it does kind of speak to something being removed from our lives, right? Releasing, letting go of something. And because it's a sign of Sagittarius, this could be releasing an idea, or releasing an ism, or releasing just a philosophy, okay, an approach, a truth, right? Something that we've held dear, perhaps. It could be about releasing that. Now, being square to Neptune, it's going to get a little murky and foggy as to where we stand, where we end, and where we begin. It could get a little murky there. That could be a little confusing time for a lot of us. I guess the astrological advice, especially for the first couple of weeks of December, is to use the Mars energy. Keep it individual. Keep it focused with yourself for the time being, right? While you can, because there's going to be a lot of confusion collectively, I see, potentially, right? There could be a lot of confusion collectively, and to keep it focused on an individual level, focused on self, because you can use that Mars energy to really make great strides for yourself if you can do what you can to kind of temporarily tune out the litany of confusing messages that are going to be creating all kinds of narratives and storylines and all kinds of potential for illusion, right? Because that's what Neptune rules. It rules illusion, confusion. It rules nebulousness, right? And it's going to be square to that new moon in Sagittarius at that eclipse. So for that period of time, for that new moon right there around, I think it's the 10th or 11th of December, trine to Mars, use the Mars energy. Stay with taking care of your own business, you know, taking actions that you want to take, you know, stay healthy, use that physical energy, use that drive, do something fun, right? Try to focus on fun. Try to focus on getting out and making recreation for yourself, right? And do not use that energy to try to figure things out and to try to make order out of chaos that is very likely to be there in some respects, but I think it's more I think it could manifest more as just confusion or uncertainty or nebulousness more than actual outright chaos. At least right there in the beginning. Now, Mars, once we get later into the month, right around the solstice, Mars is going to hit Pluto. All right, now at that time, it's going to create a square. So whereas the first couple of weeks, I say use that Mars energy, have some recreation, have some fun. Once it gets toward the solstice, right around the 22nd or so of December, Mars is going to be square to Pluto. And with that, we're looking at an energy that can get very severe, right? Can get very extreme. Extreme action can be a temptation. Now, in the collective, we can imagine what that would look like, right? We can let the storyline run in our minds as to what that could mean, right? But what I want to focus on is on an individual level. There's going to be a temptation, perhaps, to go to extremes of action, to be very direct and very action oriented before we even think. There could be decisions that are made in a flash that have real lasting consequences for a long time to come that we don't even consider. But we just take action in a snap, right? There are times when this can be very beneficial and be really great for us to do. There are times when it's necessary, right? But not now, not right around that solstice time. I wouldn't advise it. With that square to Pluto, our adrenals could be on fire, and we could really get ourselves in way over our head and have things come down on us in a very, very severe way that we did not foresee. I mean, this is not an energy that we necessarily want to be a part of. Of course, every individual has a different chart, and it's going to affect everybody differently. However, this is an energy that I would just say to just avoid the extremes, right? Try to take the middle path with this. If you need to take action because it's part of your honor code, if you will, or it's part of your, it's a way in which you feel dignified and just, then in whatever situation in your life, then I would suggest taking that action, but be aware of extremes and the temptation to go too far, right? Because Mars lacks perspective. It always does. All right. And with a square to Pluto, this is kind of a life or death energy. We're talking about Mars and Pluto getting together. This is the most severe that it gets, right? This is most severe that it gets. Now, we actually had this energy back in March, right? We had in March we had Mars on Pluto, and that was right around the time we had the lockdowns. We had COVID, an acute virus that was causing a lot of problems and creating a lot of sudden changes, right? It could manifest that way again as something like that as a collective, or it could be different. This could be in relation to power, right? Because we are talking about Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, right? It could be something like that. It could be both. Hopefully, it's nothing like that, and hopefully, as individuals, we all keep a cool head, and this becomes just a temptation and not a reality, right? Because that potential is also there too. I mean, we do have choice. We do have a say in how all of this manifests. So that's that. It's a pretty severe energy right around the solstice. And then we move later into the month. That's also, I'm sorry, right around that time too, right around the solstice, we're also going to have, both Jupiter and Saturn conjunct one another at 29 degrees Capricorn, then moving into 0 degrees Aquarius together, conjunct. Very, very interesting, rare, once in a lifetime kind of aspect to see both of these planets right there, moving right about the same speed for a couple of weeks there, and moving not only conjunct one another, but changing signs together. I mean, this is such a rare configuration. There's no doubt it's going to have consequence of some kind. So I just see right around that third week of December, right around Christmas time and into the new year, there's big changes on the horizon. Something is taking place. It's not only something collectively in the external that I'm talking about, but this is also a shift that's happening internally for all of us in some capacity, and it's going to manifest as changes in our lives in some area, some way. And we're moving from Capricornian energy, which is all about being dutiful and the tried and true, and what is, playing by the rules, and what works, and what is, what is traditional, right? We're moving two very heavy hitting planets with Jupiter and Saturn. We're moving those planets out of that energy and into the energy of Aquarius, which is a lot more forward thinking. It's a lot more futuristic. It's a lot. It's a very different energy. Now, having said that, it is still a Saturn ruled sign, right? In the traditional astrology, it is still a Saturnian ruled sign. So, though Capricorn and Aquarius are very different energies, they still have a flavor of order about them. Whereas Capricorn, it's all about the rule books and doing things as we've always done them and the tried and true. In Aquarius, it's more about taking account for the group, the collective, and what is good for all. It's more utilitarian, right? And its expression, right? And any kind of decisions or actions or what have yous that are outside of benefit of group mentality aren't even seen by Aquarius. So that's the thing about Aquarius. Aquarius is very futuristic, and it's very forward thinking, and it's very oddball, outside the box, and eccentric. However, it's still a Saturnian ruled sign, and it does have a blind spot of not really understanding individual unless that individual is expression is within the confines of group dynamic, right? So I guess what I'm saying is there is a container for which our individual rebellious fury that Mars may be fueling, that energy is going to be contained with Saturn going into Aquarius. It will only be allowed to go so far out of bounds once Saturn goes into Aquarius, and Jupiter as well. There's only so much breadth of expression that Aquarius will contain, and then outside of that container, it's almost like it's not even seen. It's on the outs. So very interesting energy when both Jupiter and Saturn go into Aquarius. It kind of, Saturn can get very, with Saturn and Aquarius, I kind of see that being a couple of years where we're going to have more restrictions on technology and expression through technology, for better or worse. I think we're going to have a little bit more containment of this free fall of technology that we've had, because Aquarius is an air sign. It's fixed air, and it rules a lot of these futuristic technological things. And with Saturn going in there, I do think we're going to be having some limits on this expression, perhaps. But we're also going to be building foundations that are sustainable for the longer term too. With Saturn going into Aquarius and with Jupiter going into Aquarius, it's going to be there's going to be a lot of hope. There's going to be a lot of breakthrough. There's going to be a lot of innovation with the solid uh, foundation that Saturn's going to provide for it. So, very exciting time. In a lot of ways, it can be very contradictory. And there could be, especially there at the beginning with both of these planets together, there could be a lot of peristalsis, of expansion and contraction happening at the same time. And with that, again, with that square from Neptune to that new moon eclipse in mid-December, that could be a little bit confusing as well. So there could be about a month or two there, the end of the year, start of the next year, where we're trying to really figure these things out. There's going to be a lot of hope and a lot of just a lot of hope that is coming into play, but also a lot of fear, perhaps, because Saturn does rule fear, and it's going to be right there with Jupiter, with the sign of, or the planet of hope and expansion. So there could be a lot of hope, but yet a lot of really coming to terms with reality at the same time, right? So, there's a lot of energies that we have coming at us here at the end of the year. I will say this in a very general way: 2020 is coming to an end. The energies that we were dealing with, once we get toward that last week of December and into the new year, we are in it. It's a new ballgame. It's a very new playing field that we're going to be working with these energies. We're not going to have Saturn and Jupiter in Capricorn anymore. Mars is not going to be challengingly aspecting the Capricorn expression like it was, because it's not going to be in frictitious aspect to Saturn and Jupiter anymore in Capricorn. Instead, it's going to be at the beginning of the year, start of the year, it is going to be making a square to Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. And Mars, toward the very end of the year, into beginning of 2021, is going to be in the sign of Taurus. So, I do see the next year kind of starting off into this year, into next year, starting off is kind of really taking action to fortify our ourselves and our domestic situation and our lives and our families. Really wanting to take action around that, given the new parameters that we're working within, which are going to be Saturn and Jupiter and Aquarius, and really, kind of bumping up against, well, what are the new boundaries? What are the new dynamics? What is the new playing field that we're working within? What are the new rules? How do we do this, right? There could be a lot of trial and error. There could be a lot of tension and friction there to start the year with that. However, it's not going to be the same as it was in 2020. It's going to be a brand new ball game, and it's not going to last nearly as long, right? Because Mars is going to hit that for the first couple of weeks of 2021, and then it's going to move out of there, and it's going to be on its way. So it's sort of like for the end of the year, this last 6 weeks, and then the first couple of weeks of 2021. There's a lot of changes going on. There's a lot of shift happening. There's going to be a lot of emotions running through us, a lot of feelings, a lot of thoughts, a lot of impulses to take action, and maybe bumping our heads a little bit on things. But that's okay. Just kind of ride this roller coaster, if you will, because it's not meant to be anything other than that right now. That's really what we have going on. But it is going to calm down. It's going to hit a crescendo, I would say, right around that third week of December. We're kind of building up to that. The Mars energy, we can kind of feel it building. We're going to have a lot of energy to take into whatever is going to be happening. And whenever we do hit that crescendo at that third week of December, I would just suggest at that time, oh gosh, just be very considered and try not to fall into any extremes. Extremes of thought, extremes of feeling, extremes of action, right? Because that's going to be the temptation, right? But outside of that, we are going to have a lot of energy to use. And so long as we don't fall into that extreme one way or another, we can really create really awesome outcome for ourselves. I mean, this is really a time where we can leapfrog time a little bit and use these energies optimally to really create lasting change that really carries us forward for a long time. But we just need to stay awake. We just really need to stay conscious of what it is that we're dealing with in each individual moment so that we make the most of it. So that's what I got for this last part of the year. I'll probably, at some point, if I can find the time, I'm going to make some videos about, maybe dive a little deeper into each of these individual aspects that I've been talking about, because this is a very fly over the top, kind of rough, generalized reading here. But yeah, each of these aspects has consequence. I mean, it could do a whole video on just one planet, one aspect, because that's how consequential all these things are right now. But anyway, there's your brief overview of what we got for the rest of the year and into the start of next year. Hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.